Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of year once again. The time where critics make their lists. And because I need to see a few more movies, True Grit, The King's Speech, The Fighter, mainly, I'm going to hold off on my best 10 of the year for right now. But what we can do is make the list of the worst movies of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts, because this is the top 10 worst movies of 2010. At number 10 is the unbelievably overhyped Kick-Ass. I don't know, I think Suck-Ass is better suited. Now before you castrate me with your crazy comments, let me explain. I went into this movie pumped. I was so excited to see this film. I waited for months on end, so excited. This movie looked awesome. And then I saw it, and it was the stupidest movie I've seen in a long time. I don't even mean stupid in a comedic sense. I mean stupid in an ignorant sense. Now before I say this, let me tell you, I love violence and gore. I love it. It makes a movie a lot better a lot of the time. And it really increases the realism. And I'm also a big supporter of making an action movie hard R. Because I really think that's how action movies should be. But this movie is like watching a 10-year-old on Xbox Live play Halo and kill people in all these inventive ways and poke you on your back going, yeah, you see how I blew that guy's head off? You see how I chopped his arm off? He just got chopped in half, man. Wait, what? I just got killed? Mother! It's just an unnecessarily vulgar, stupid movie that can't decide if it wants to be Kill Bill or just another dumb retread of superhero movie. And before you come in and tell me,
oh, it was trying to be faithful to the comic book that it was based on.
let me tell you something. The story in this comic book sucks. It's your typical Spider-Man parody that does nothing new or inventive with the material. The people involved try their very hardest. Matthew Vaughn's a good director. Nicolas Cage is a great actor. But let me tell you something. Even Matthew Vaughn falters here. There's an attempt at an action scene with real emotional heart, and it's one of the worst attempts at an action scene I've ever seen. So in summary, pointlessly vulgar, ridiculously stupid, number 10. At number 9 is the Angelina Jolie identity crisis, Salt. This movie is just another pathetic attempt to make Angelina Jolie the next Jason Bourne, and it fails miserably. Not only are the action scenes so ridiculous, and I don't mind ridiculous action, I like Night and Day and the A-Team because they just fully embraced it, but this movie is so ridiculous and so mind-numbingly boring because unlike the films I just mentioned, it takes itself so seriously, and it's, like I said, it's just so ridiculous to the point where it's just mind-numb. And the twists in this movie, don't even get me started. I had my jaw on the floor, not in awe, but in just shock at how stupid and ridiculous the final twist in this film is. This movie finally made me realize how boring I actually find Angelina Jolie. Number 8 is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. Great, another Harry Potter ripoff. And this one had the most potential yet to be the next Harry Potter. The original director, a pretty talented cast, and a pretty big budget if I remember correctly. But it did not pay off. This movie is nothing more than a series of corny special effects, hammy acting, and just the most cliche story of a fantasy movie I've seen in a long time. Although Legend of the Guardians is a pretty close second. And from what I understand, this is actually based off a pretty good book. Gee, Fox bastardizing a good book just to make a profit and make a movie series that will never continue? Who'd have thunk it? At number 7, we have Legion. Not much to say about this one. Silly, stupid, corny movie, bad performances, lame visual effects, slow story, moving on. At number 6 is another failed attempt to make a comic book movie. Jonah Hex. Where do I begin on this one? This one was a bit of a disaster. Not only does it feature one of the most corny plots I've ever seen, John Malkovich trying to blow up major cities with Dragon Balls, yeah, but it also featured hammy acting from Josh Brolin, tough guy, yeah, and Megan Fox.
Am I a sex icon yet?
And an insultingly short running time of 70 minutes. That feels like 2.5 hours. This is pretty low on the list only because it's pretty fun to watch as a so bad it's good movie, but this is easily one of the worst comic book movies ever made. It's up there with Elektra, people. At number 5, we have Wall Street. Money may never sleep, but I sure do. This movie basically has two main sins to it. The first and most predominant is that it is boring. And number 2 is that it's completely inaccessible to people who aren't stockbrokers. And that is a big percent of the movie-going population. And I have not been more excruciatingly bored in a film in a long time. Maybe that's just because I didn't understand it, but I tried to. And even then, it's a dull story that really doesn't go anywhere, and it's such a pretentious movie, too. Like I mentioned in my review of it, Oliver Stone seemed to constantly be shoving metaphorical images into our face, saying, see, aren't I deep, deep, deep? And while there were a few good performances by Michael Douglas, Shia LaBeouf, and our old friend Josh Brolin, I have, like I said, an excruciatingly boring, painful experience for me at the theater. Did not enjoy this film one bit. At number 4, we have Takers of My Precious Time and Money. When I said Salt was one of the most pathetic attempts at an action movie I've seen in a little while, this is probably the most pathetic. Not only did they get the worst lineup of actors that I've ever seen, they crafted a pitifully cliche, extremely boring, crappily filmed project that has no redeeming qualities on any level and is a terrible insult to any fan of action movies everywhere. Now we're getting into the elite 3 movies that I hate. And number 3 is the painfully unfunny Dinner for Schmucks. This movie had everything that it needed to be a funny, fun summer comedy, and it fell flat completely. Steve Carell, annoying. I love Steve Carell, and he gave one of the most annoying performances I've ever seen. It's up there with Steve Martin in The Pink Panther. Paul Rudd, generic. And everything about this movie just irritates me to think about in the way that it just shamelessly panders at the camera, trying so hard to be funny. So very, very hard. And it falls flat on every single level. I literally had a excruciating headache in this film just because I wanted them to stop telling jokes. It goes without saying, but this is the worst comedy since Pink Panther 2. At number 2, we have Tim Burton's God knows what, of Allison. Now, there have been a lot of remakes, reimaginings, whatevers lately, and a lot of them have been decent, but this is one of the most painful I've seen yet. Not only do the visuals look like a kid's coloring book that was scribbled outside the lines and then put in an oven, but that's all the movie has to offer. The performances are god-awful. Johnny Depp hams it up so much, and Mia Waka, whatever the hell her name is so bland and so terrible that this movie gave me absolutely nothing to care about. It's a visually awful, blandly acted, boring piece of, I don't even know. This is an awful movie that shows us everything that's wrong with cinema at this present moment. But at least this movie had a vision of some kind. At least this movie was trying. And that's more than I can say for the worst movie of the year and one of the worst sci-fi films of the decade, Skyline. This movie is just pathetic. I don't even know what to say about it. These two directors took every sci-fi movie they've ever seen, regardless of if they're just popular or if they're just on the Sci-Fi Channel, and somehow ripped them off and managed to retain none of the qualities that made any of these movies entertaining. A bland, boring, visually meh film that doesn't even take advantage of its slightly above average visuals and just has us sit in an apartment with its boring character stereotypes for an hour and a half trying to figure out what to do. This is awful. This is everything a movie should not be. This movie kills me. And the ending makes me want to die. So that was the top 10 worst movies of the year. I'll be back after New Year's with my top 10 best because I need to see a few more movies, and I will compile a list then. Hope you have a great Christmas, a great New Year's, And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel because there's going to be plenty more reviews and videos coming up.